I call to order the reorganization and business meeting of the CUSD 201 Board of Education today, April 27th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Ms. Coyle?
Here.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Conover?
Here.
Ms. Hoover?
Here.
Ms. Redonio?
Here.
First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the April 13th, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have an action item, amendment to the business manager's administrative contract. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the administrative contract of Kim Anderson as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Do we have any public comments this evening? Okay, then we'll move on to the board recognition.
And at this time, Laura Coyle, Vice President of the CUSD 201 Board of Education, and myself, we'd like to recognize two of our board members who will be completing their terms of office and will be leaving the Board of Education, but have been a part of our board for a number of years and really have been a large part of what we have been able to do as a district over the last 10 years. They've been an integral part of that. And so it's always a bittersweet moment, you know, because we're happy for our two board members that they're going to get back their Tuesday nights. But at the same time, their knowledge and wisdom, you know, will definitely be missed by our board and our district as well. And so first we have Gary Armstrong for 10 years of service. And then we have Joel Price, 12 years of service. Many of those years as our vice president. The last few months, he's been our president of our school board.
Okay, Mr. Armstrong, do you have any words to say?
Just a couple of quick things. I promised I wouldn't get emotional, but I did. Thanks to my wife. Your support over the years has been tremendous. I appreciate it. To the community, I say thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to be your representative here at the board table, and it's meant a lot to me. This has been the most important work I've ever done in my life. I truly mean that. The accomplishments that this district has come through in the last 12, 14 years has been amazing. And Kevin, that's due in large part to your leadership. I thank you for that. I think you were the perfect man for the job when you were hired 12 years ago. Your vision of Small Giants really came through for exactly what it should be. The administrative team that you put together was outstanding. They bought into the idea, all the teachers did, and it has really transformed this district. And I appreciate everything you've done for the district.
Thank you.
Kim, it has been a privilege to serve with you on the Finance Committee and the Facilities Committee. You always had a plan. You were always spot on with what we should do. And these buildings and the finances have been in a much better place over the decade or so that I've been on the board serving with you. It really has been a privilege. I can't say that enough. Most importantly, I guess, I'd like to thank the students of 201. They picked up the challenge. We challenged them. We said, raise the bar. And they took it up. And every year, those classes got better and better and better. And for the rest of my life, I will watch that generation grow up and succeed and know that I had a small part of that. So, thank you, 201.
Thank you, Gary. Every year during the opening ceremony of the School Board Association Conference, they request all board members from across the state to stand up. The speaker then asks for all board members with 4 years or less to sit down, then 8 years, sit down, then 12 years of service, sit down. And this process continues until there's a small handful of board members left standing, some serving up to 40 or 50 years on their local school board. Each year during this ceremony, I lean over to the 201 board next to me and I say, that will not be me. 2021 is finally the year that my annual prediction comes to pass. I have served on the 201 board for 3 full terms, totaling 12 years, and to prep myself for this role, I attended 2 years of 201 board meetings prior to first being elected in 2009. And that was before we televised meetings, so attendance was in person. I've also served as District 201's representative to the SACID Board of Control for all 12 years, which has meant double board duty. I can't even imagine the total number of hours volunteering I have put into this role, but several thousand hours seems a reasonable estimate. Across these 12 years, there have been so many pre-K to 12 academic initiatives and building projects that I have been a part of. And I'm not even going to run through the whole list. I am leaving this role with a district that is vastly different and vastly improved over the district I joined as a new board member in 2009. 201's rise over these 12 years has greatly enhanced our broader community and helped make Westmont a great place to raise a family, a town to be much prouder in, and a town to even boast about. None of this happened at my hands alone, but happened through the goals established by the board, the work of Superintendent Carey, our administrators, teachers, teaching assistants, and all 201 staff. The willingness of our students and their parents to embrace the academic challenges and changes put in front of them also helped a lot. I believe our students have benefited greatly from such active participation in the improvement process. There's a phrase I've become familiar with during the COVID pandemic, all the challenges associated with it, but it can also apply to board service. That phrase goes like this: replace I with we, and illness becomes wellness. I love the imagery that phrase evokes: the caring compassion, the willingness to help, and of course, working together. I congratulate the new board and wish you wellness as you continue to build on the strong foundation we are leaving behind. I have special thanks, of course, to my family who have been supportive and understanding throughout this entire commitment. It's been a long one, and there's been many times where you've missed something important to your family or your kids because you had made a commitment to be here. I thank Kevin for his vision, his creativity, and the problem-solving he implemented to really improve our district. Kim for her fiscal leadership and solid advice to us when we wanted too much or possibly offering up avenues to do a little more with the money that we have. Thanks to the board members I have served with, our district administrators, our teachers, and all of our staff. Personal thanks from me to 201 pre-K through 12 special education team for the personal success story we brought into being by working diligently together. A special educator's work can often be unseen to the greater school community. So I wanted to let you know my personal and heartfelt appreciation for all you have done. Thank you, and be well, 201.
Joel and Gary, I just, on behalf of the board, just wanted to say thank you for your service and your sacrifice that you've made over the last 10 and 12 years. This is a hard job, and it's appreciated by your community, and your leadership is appreciated by the rest of us, and we'll try to carry forward in your spirit. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next items. We have a couple of action items. Presentation of the election results.
Attached in board docs, we received the official election results from the Page County Board of Elections. They're attached in board docs. They have been certified Board of Elections, so the results are now official. There's no board action that needs to be taken. It's just to receive the results.
All right.
And let's just take a quick moment and say, you know, the power of the vote, right? Power of the vote, everybody. 7 votes made the difference here. 7 votes. Never think your vote doesn't matter.
Okay, if we could have all of our elected office holders, newly elected office holders, come up front here, and we will administer the oath of office. So we'll do this primarily responsive, try to indicate to everyone so no one gets confused about it, but I'll read the first section, and then if you'll each go "I" and then state your name, and then read in unison that first paragraph, and then we'll read responsibly back and forth after that. So I state your name, do solemnly swear. Do solemnly, is it on? Okay. Do solemnly, I'm sorry. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Community Unit, School District 201, in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability. Ange, if you go first.
I, Angela Stephanie, do solemnly swear. I, Jessica Rodonio, do solemnly swear.
I, Kevin Barron, do solemnly swear.
I, Adina Hoover, do solemnly swear.
I, Leah Conover, do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 201 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability.
I further swear that I shall respect taxpayers' interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees.
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting.
I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district.
As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district.
I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Community Unit School District 201.
I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Community Unit School District 201.
I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework.
I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework.
I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law.
I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law.
I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community's schools and advance the vision for Community Unit School District 201.
I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for Community Unit School District 201.
I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
Congratulations and welcome to the Board of Education, CUSD 201. If anyone wanted a picture or anything, you can do that. Or you can just. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the appointment of President Pro Tem and Secretary Pro Tem. The Chair will entertain nominations for President Pro Tem.
I nominate Laura Coyle.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, if we could get a roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
The Chair will entertain nominations for Secretary Pro Tem.
I nominate Jess Redonio.
Any other nominations? Okay. Did we get a second?
Need a second?
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Jess Redonio as Secretary Pro Tem.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes. Okay. Normally I entertain a motion, but I think I'll go ahead and make this one. I motion to adjourn sin dine.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Adjourn sin dine.
Call to order tonight's regular meeting of the Board of Education. Roll call, please.
Ms. Coyle?
Here.
Ms. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Marin?
Here.
Ms. Hoover?
Here.
Ms. Steckity?
Here.
Ms. Redonio?
Here.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the election of officers. The chair will entertain nominations for Board of Education President.
I nominate Laura Coyle.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? The chair will entertain a motion to name Laura Coyle as Board of Education President for a one-year term.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Okay, the chair will entertain nominations for Board of Education Vice President.
I nominate Adina Hoover.
Are there any other nominations? The chair will entertain a motion to name Adina Hoover as Board of Education Vice President for a one-year term.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
The chair will entertain nominations for the Board of Education Secretary. I'll nominate Jess Redonio.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? The chair will entertain a motion to name Jess Redonio as Board of Education Secretary for a one-year term.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
All right. The next item on the agenda is appointment of board committees. So the list of board committees and their descriptions are in board docs. We have a strategic planning committee, a facilities committee, a finance committee, a policy committee, and a public relations committee. I will be sending around, instead of, discussing that now, I'll be sending around sign-up sheets. So each of you can put your names by whatever committees you'd like. It would be great to have everyone on at least one committee. And we can have no more than three board members on a single committee. Are there any questions about the committees before we start the sign-up?
I just have one quick question. Are we planning on putting together a calendar of meetings for these?
Right.
And when do you think we'll have that?
We'll do that once I get the names on the committees, then I'll be reaching out to see if there's a particular day of the week that works for people.
Great.
And then we'll be setting that up for our May 18th board meeting.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so the third item on the agenda is the establishment of board meeting dates, times, and places. These were also provided in board docs. The chair will entertain a motion that the regular meetings of the Community Unit School District 201 Board of Education be held as identified on the notice schedule of regular meetings of the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 201 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of the SACID Board of Control and Governing Board Representative, and Leah Conover has volunteered for that position. So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Leah Conover as District 201's representative to the SACID Board of Control. And Kevin or Ange, would one of you like to be the alternate?
That's fine.
Yeah, and Kevin Marin as the alternate.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
The chair will entertain a motion to appoint Jess Redonio as the District 201's Illinois Association of School Boards Delegate Representative.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Personnel recommendations: Vincent DeSecco, part-time custodian, Westmont Junior High School. Jeffrey Whitburn, evening custodial supervisor, Westmont High School. Number 2, disposal of equipment. Number 3, approval of audit engagement. Number 4, approval of April 2021 expenditure report. Number 5, ratification of the March 2021 regular payroll. Number 6, approval of IHSA contract for the 2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda are items for information and discussion, and the first one is the first reading of the proposed student handbook revisions.
Dr. Kevin Weck, the assistant principal at the high school, is here this evening. Kevin chairs the district handbook committee. And so this is the first reading, so Kevin will explain to the board some of the changes that are recommended to the student handbooks. And then at our May 18th meeting, the changes will be presented for a second reading and adoption.
Yep. So I first want to say thank you, Mr. Carey and the board, for having me here tonight for the first reading of our handbook revisions for next year. Just 2 quick announcements from the high school. First, that over the past weekend, our Scholastic Bowl team competed with the national championship. So they are actually double national champions. They won the very, very small class, and they also won the very small competition. So they spent all weekend doing this, and it was quite the feat for our small school.
That's awesome,
So I
Kevin.
just want to say
Thank you.
congratulations to our Scholastic Bowl team.
Absolutely, congratulations.
And then the second announcement is, we just got this information today, but the U.S. News and World Report came out with their rankings, and they rank every public high school in the country. And it's really the most comprehensive ranking system that there is for education. And this year, Westmont High School is number 15 in Illinois of the regular public schools. So that takes out your charter schools and things like that in terms of number 15 in the state, which is quite the accomplishment for our teachers, our staff, and our students. Because last year we were 18 in the state, and this year now we're number 15. And it's just a testament to all the hard work that's gone in over the years. So I just want to say congratulations to everybody. I'm so proud of them.
Absolutely.
All right, going into the handbook of revisions for next year, I first want to give a shout out to the people who participated on our committee, our parent committee: Jill Hawkins, Courtney Templeton, Hayes Templeton, Liz Rathburn, Joe Schmendera. Tim Weiler also co-facilitates with me, so I want to give a shout out to him as well. Really what happens is, over spring break, we send out a Google form to all of our teachers, and we ask for feedback based on the student handbook. So if they want any revisions for the following year, they put in the edits or the changes, and then we take those edits and changes and we meet with our parent committee then, right after spring break. So we give teachers about 2 weeks to do this. Then we meet with our parent committee, and then we pass that along to Shannon to give to all of you. So tonight, I'm gonna go through, there's 3 different grade levels. We got the elementary, the junior high, and high school. I'll go through some of the highlights from each one of those levels, and then if you have any questions after each grade level, feel free to pose those at that time. Okay, so we'll start off with the elementary handbook revisions for next year. I'm just gonna highlight a few of these. They put into place the policy regarding the accelerated placement program, just a place to go look for that. And then the next one is a notification to all parents about technology vendors that we use. So a lot of times we'll use software that kind of tracks and monitors student performance data. It's got personal information in there. And really what we're putting in here is that that data is protected so that they cannot sell it or they cannot put it out there for other vendors as well. We just want to make sure that our parents are aware that, and this is in all 3 different level handbooks. It's pretty lengthy, but we wanted to make sure we protect ourselves by putting that in there. And then also some other changes for the elementary levels, that they have a new bell schedule for next year. They put that in there. Also COVID-related statements about quarantining, just in case. Let's hope, you know, that we don't have to necessarily go to these measures next year, but they put this language in there as well. And then some other things are after-school arrangements, child's routine for the end of the day. The classroom teacher and school office must be notified at least 1 hour before the end of the day if there's going to be any changes. Some other things, at no time is a student to leave school grounds during school hours for early dismissal without notification. Let's see, by themselves. Really the change is just that they can't leave by themselves. A parent has to come in to get them. Some other things with homework, homework should really just supplement, complement, and reinforce classroom instruction and may be assigned in all grade levels. And then we also ask that please communicate with the teacher immediately if parents are feeling overwhelmed. Some other information, we'd like to add components of video conferencing during parent-teacher conferences. You know, I think that that's an advantage that we found through the COVID or the pandemic, is that we have extra opportunities to meet and speak with parents that may not inconvenience working parents who, you know, are unable to come to the school for those types of meetings. So it's an advantage for us. And then also, we want to remove students who wear eyeglasses should have their names on the frame and also on the eyeglass case. And the last thing for the elementary is upon entering the bus, students will find and sit in their assigned seat. That's something we found over the pandemic was necessary, just to make sure that students knew exactly where they needed to sit each and every time, just to be able to contact trace. Does anybody have any questions related to the elementary handbook revisions? And it's okay if you don't. Okay, cool. All right, moving on then to our junior high handbook changes. They also have the accelerated placement program language that they're going to add to their handbook. There's also the annual notice to parents about educational technology vendors. It's the same exact language as we have in the elementary and high school. And then through our parent committee, some of the feedback we got was that maybe now we need to start to think about our smart watches and whether or not students are using those inappropriately during class. So each different grade level went back and tried to find out where that could be placed within the language in the handbook. So this would just be something that's highlighted for both the junior high and high school, is that really it's a smart device consideration. Does anybody have any questions related to the junior high handbook? No, okay. All right, then moving on to the last one, which is the high school. And I guess it's good that these are kind of short because that means that we're not having too many hiccups going on. Let's see, so we've got also the vendor notification and then the smart device. We just put that into a few of our restrictions. And then the last thing is that we're getting rid of the managers and statisticians, all team levels, getting an embroidered MGR. We actually have not had any of those students. So that's basically it for the high school. Any feedback on that?
I just have what I do have.
Yeah, go ahead.
One quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the minor offenses include but are not limited to inappropriate usage of a cell phone or a smart device. Is that articulated in any more detail, like what that constitutes, or do you want to keep it more general?
I think we keep it vague because I don't know what next year is going to look like in terms of some of the technology that comes out. Mm-hmm. So we say smart device right now because it could be a watch, but you know, I don't necessarily know what's available out there. So I try to keep it something that's like an umbrella. And then I could say, hey, that applies to smart device right there.
I guess I meant like the inappropriate usage part.
Oh, yes, yes. That's based on individual circumstances.
Okay.
So it could be that hey, they're using it for a test or a quiz, but they could also be messaging a friend, things like that, or making noises with their watch. So yeah, there's just so many different circumstances that could come up that we have to just say inappropriate, meaning it's a disruption to the classroom.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say welcome to all of our new board members. congratulations. Thank you. It's been a fun journey, but we'll continue that.
Yeah.
Keep moving forward. Any questions related to any of the handbooks? Okay.
I don't have a question about the handbook, but I do want to formally say congratulations to you and the high school team and the students at the high school for the accomplishments. I think that's just incredible. It's like every other day, something new gets announced about.
It's a beautiful place. It really is.
It's really wonderful, and it's appreciated by all of us and by the community. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. That means a lot, and we love being here. So
Good.
Westmont's a beautiful place to be. Anything else? Well, everyone enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then I'll see you on the 18th, is that right?
The 18th, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Smart Board refresh.
And Nadine Norris is our Director of Teaching, Learning, and Technology. And as you can imagine, we have smart boards in each of our classrooms, and those types of devices have a useful life. And so Nadine wants to discuss with the board the possibility of doing a refresh.
Good evening, board members. Welcome, new board members, Mr. Carey. I provided some documentation for our decision-making in board docs. Basically, as Mr. Carey said, every one of our K-5 classrooms and a number of our 6-8 classrooms have a smart board, and they have they're in the 8 to 10 year range, most of them, and they are no longer able to be updated and repaired. So that type of technology, that type of classroom technology is imperative to instructional practices. It's something that the teachers use during whole group as well as small group instruction. And we found that we can't move forward and can't improve our instructional practices or our classroom, our learning environments without having to update those. And so after extensive research, I actually began this process last year, and I was going to bring this to you last year, but priorities changed. So it's given us an opportunity to test a device and to engage in some decision making, and that process is outlined in this document. And I wanted to provide an opportunity, because it's such a significant investment, I wanted to provide an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. And it's important to know that this is coming from the technology budget, and the technology budget does allow for refresh cycles, and this would be part of the refresh cycle. Initially, this purchase was made using one-time only funds 10 years ago, or over 3 years, and but we've been able to kind of manipulate our refresh cycle to be able to provide a refresh for these devices. Any questions at all?
So will these go in over the summer?
Yeah, they'll be going over the summer, and because it's such a significant amount of work, we'll be hiring a vendor who specializes in installation, and I've worked with Mr. Joe Smith in terms of what that looks like, and we check to make sure that there's electricity available. So what will happen is the projectors and the smart boards will be taken down, and this one device looks a lot like a television set. It's just a flat screen. It's interactive. It's a touch screen, and so that'll just be placed primarily in the same spot as the smart board is now. In some locations where it just doesn't make sense to install them, we'll put them on a cart. And in a couple of places where we can share the device, we'll put it on a cart so that it can be moved from room to room.
And is the cost for the vendor also part of the technology refresh budget?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
Yes.
And can you just speak really quickly to what training, like what the plans are for onboarding teachers with the new technology?
So far, in order to get the evaluation done effectively, one of our tech team members has been trained from the vendor, and we worked with our instructional coaches to try and just get the basics down. And so in the beginning of the school year, we'll start to create videos and do some basic training about the board. We're fairly confident that it'll be an easy transition For example, the high school, many years ago when we had the construction, we converted the high school in a similar fashion to a similar device, and the transition was fairly smooth. I went to the high school a few times for office hours, just for people to stop by and for me to provide extra support. The teachers ended up helping each other. But it was a pretty smooth transition because people are used to the touchscreen, and the way the device works is so similar to a computer or to a smartboard now that it's going to be pretty easy. We're pretty confident it'll be easy transition.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question. If we have to work remotely, how does this interact with the remote learners?
Currently, well, in this year, when we worked remotely, many of our teachers worked in the classroom, and they had their smartboard, projected image smartboard set up with all of the images of the students in their Zoom. And so if you could kind of picture that, it'll be the same. The advantage of this particular device is that the kids can mirror their Chromebooks onto the projected image of the board. So the teacher can provide a code, and if you can kind of picture where a student can then share their device, or a set of students can share their device, 4 of them, so that all the students and the teacher can see the devices. So that's kind of an added benefit of this particular device. So the learning environment is augmented by this particular kind of technology, but it is consistent with what kind of with the classroom technology that we've been using. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have one more.
Oh, that's great.
The smart boards, they 8 to 12 years, that's a pretty long lifespan.
Yeah.
What, does the vendor have any kind of estimate for
About
these?
10 years.
Okay.
So I'll see you in 10 years.
Hopefully.
The other reason why and I didn't really put this in specifically, but this particular dealer that we're purchasing these devices from, they provide a 3-year warranty, and it's on site or engaged. So we're happy with that. It gives us a nice start. With the boards we bought at the high school, we had a couple of issues. One came, they call it dead on arrival, and we were able to get a quick exchange. So we're confident that we'll be getting good service. So
Great.
That'll help a lot.
I have a question about what happens to the old equipment? Do we have to pay for, I don't know, recycling, or I guess?
We
what happens to the
will
old?
take those off the walls ourselves, so we won't have to pay to have the vendor take them off. And then we will send those to our typical recycler, and they will dispose of them. We will not have to pay.
For the recycling?
Correct, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, just to make sure that I'm transparent about this is a really significant cost, and it fits in our budget right now. But if in the coming weeks before I bring this to the board for approval, it's possible that I'll have to spread this purchase out between 2 years. So I want to make sure that I call that to your attention, just in case something unforeseen, or we have to do a little shifting with our budget.
That was actually going to be my question.
Yeah.
Did we explore doing like one school at a time? I understand we're probably getting some type of volume discount because of how many.
We are getting a volume discount. The vendor will be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just do one school at a time because all of the schools have old devices that are not operating. It would be my hope that I would get as many as possible, but as you can see, I have a couple, in each of the buildings, I have a couple of boards that we're adding extra boards. So when I look at the placement, I look at the opportunities to be able to stretch this purchase out to 2 years. I'll look at those situations where the board is not an imperative part of instruction. Perhaps it's a location that a teacher didn't have a board. But for the most part, the boards that we have are in really rough shape, and so it would be a hardship on those teachers if I had to tell them that they have to work with that board one more year. So I'm going to do my very best to provide these devices for the classrooms that that are dependent on that type of technology, particularly because most of them don't operate anymore or don't function properly, and that I would pay careful consideration to environments that didn't have one before, didn't necessarily depend on this just to the same degree. It's my goal to always provide the right tools for teaching and learning, and I have a real commitment to make sure teachers have what they need to provide an optimal learning environment. So it's my goal to do the best I can to make sure that those classrooms are equipped with the right technology.
So then this is coming out of the repair fund, right? That's, how is that funded right now? If we were to do 100, like, do we have cash in that fund right now? Do we have 140,000 in the fund? Are we budgeted? Where does this does it create a deficit spending situation, or?
I have a budget that's provided for me to manage, and from that budget, I use to refresh devices. Depending on the year, it could be student devices, it could be teacher devices, it could be classroom technology. Included in that budget is my annual expenses that I have to pay every year. For example, the internet, I have to, the databases, annual fees for maintenance, annual license fees. So the technology budget, which isn't part of the ed fund, can be thought of the same way you can think of as the site-based funds for the schools. So Manning gets a budget, Miller gets a budget, and so on. And so the technology budget is how we pay our annual licenses, our internet, our phone, and refreshing student and teacher devices. So based on that refresh cycle, we make decisions about, which device is next in line. The last big refresh that we did, which was 2 years ago, was for teacher laptops, as an example, and it was about the same amount. Mm-hmm. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think I tend to lean a little bit towards, I like the idea of splitting it up over 2 years for a couple reasons. We do have some devices that are still working, and I don't necessarily want to have a very large conversation in a decade. If we could split it into two and take care of our oldest devices and our places where, kind of work through that so that we can split up the cost, the hit on the funds into 2 years, but then also spread out our replacement potentially in the future.
If I were to do that, then I would switch the replacement cycle for my next in line. Mm-hmm. So the decision to split those devices into 2 years, this would be the reason why I'm just mm-hmm. kind of talking about my thought process. It's easier if the transition is done together because the teachers and the training and the reliance on each other to bring us up to speed. I don't have to disrupt summer with the work to take those boards off and then ship them off. It would be great to be able to do that all at one time. Because there's devices that are lacking functionality throughout the district, none of these are working. None of these are functioning. Even the ones that are 8 years old are not functioning. So I would have a hard time deciding which one of the classrooms or which one of the teachers that we'd have to make wait because all of the smart boards are unable to be updated.
So Nadine,
That's
can I
the
ask a
piece
question?
that's not functioning, is that they're unupdatable.
They are not, they don't function properly. The touch functionality is not working. The drivers cannot be updated. So there's a, the way the computers communicate with the board cannot be updated anymore. So there's disruption because the software doesn't work, and so then there's, you know, the computers crash. And this is something we've been dealing with for the past 4 years. The smartboard software cannot be updated. It hasn't been able to be updated for several years. So in every classroom that has a smartboard, there's disruption of teaching and learning. So I really want to replace them all at one time. And when I made reference to the possibility that I may have to put a couple on hold, it was not the ones that are in the classroom, it is ones that, for example, that don't have a smartboard right now, like the art room, for example. I don't want to tell the kindergarten teachers that they have to, you know, struggle with the technology so that the first graders could get them first.
Right.
And I don't want to tell the 6th grade math teacher that she can't get one because my first priority is the English language arts. It's a very difficult, would be very difficult and very disruptive. Now you understand that budget that I'm referring to, that is allocated to the technology department every year.
Right.
So I'm not spending funds over and above what I'm allocated every year.
And that was going to be my question, Nadine, and even if you decided, I guess what I thought you meant when you said I might just have to decide to do some of these in another year,
Yeah.
It was my assumption that that decision might be because you have other technology needs that you need to spend your budget on.
Exactly, and
So-
there's, right, and I guess I should have been clear.
And I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that was, you know, that my
the-
assumption was correct. That your
If-
technology budget will stay your technology
Right,
budget.
I'll
but
get
you
the
might have
same
to
budget.
shift.
So if I decide, for example, if we decide that we too many Chromebooks are in disrepair. Now, Chromebooks will be part of the CARES Act, and that'll be a later discussion, but or if the software that we want to purchase to provide safety and security comes in at a higher cost than I expected. If there are, I've gotten a lot of quotes for next year, but if some of those annual costs come in higher than expected, then I would just shift my budget.
Yeah.
And I would just, you know, make decisions based on the priorities.
Right.
The priority for me will always be the optimal learning environment. And the current state of, you know, this current state of our classroom technology is really not optimal. And it's very difficult to work with. And it's been very disruptive the past several years, which is why I should have brought this to you last year, but last year we had a different set of priorities.
So you'll be back in a couple of weeks, you said, with a
I
action
will,
item for
with,
approval.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay. Any other questions from the group?
So I just want to also clarify that Nadine's technology budget has not increased in many years. So she's working with the same dollars that she's had for at least 4 or probably 5
7
years
the whole
now.
time I've been here, yeah.
So, right,
Who's counting?
Not that anybody's counting, yeah.
fitting all the things into that and prioritizing based on, you know, what kind of comes to the forefront, and then making sure we have all the other tools that we need.
Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you.
Does that help at all? Any other questions? Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for your good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine.
All right, have a good evening.
All right, so next up on the agenda is the update on the 2020-21 school year. Kevin?
Oh, that was wrong. 1 second. All right. And as I've been doing at prior board meetings, sharing with the board and the community an update on how this school year has been going for our district. And again, I always remind everybody, I kind of start with a review because we never know who, maybe this is the first time they're listening in and maybe haven't seen some of the other updates. But currently we are in phase 4. Recently, I know I've been hearing that we might be transitioning to a phase 4.5 shortly, which we'll have to see what mitigations are involved in that. But basically, phase 5 is when the vaccine is readily available, we have herd immunity, or no new cases over a sustained period of time. Our guiding principles. One second.
It's not seeing it. Saw it before, right?
We had pulled up there.
Can you put present mode? Oh, shoot, I don't want to do that, sorry.
Oh, thank you. Hey, is this the same thing that we got? Okay.
I can't see it, I don't know why.
Right, so I'll continue. We're having some technological difficulties, and so it's not up on the screens, but it is contained in board docs, so you can follow along in board docs. But again, our guiding principles have always been the same throughout the year, and that's primary focus is the health and safety of all of our students and staff. We want to make sure that everything that we're doing is meaningful and engaging, that we're focused on the social emotional needs of our students, that we try to provide a consistent, stable environment for our students and staff. And throughout the year, we've been providing professional development for our teachers. To kind of give you an idea, in terms of, this is since our last board meeting, our staff COVID data, we've had no additional positives, COVID tests among our staffs. And again, we're, anyone who wanted to be vaccinated has been vaccinated among our staff. And then in terms of having to quarantine, we didn't have any additional individuals that needed to quarantine as well. So that's been very positive. In terms of our students, we have had a couple of positive cases among our students. We had one student at South, 3 students at Manning, and 2 students at the high school, and this is since our last board meeting. And then in terms of students who can't self-certify, either they've had close contact or they have symptoms related to COVID, we've had 3 students at South since our last board meeting, 20 students at Manning, 10 students at Miller, 12 students at the junior high, and 11 at the high school. And so I'm somewhat anticipating, we have increased the number of students who are attending since we've gone to full days this week. Today was day 2. So I'm anticipating some of those numbers you can expect to increase as we add more students to the buildings. In terms of athletics, again, we're kind of in this late spring season now with baseball, softball, and track and soccer, which have started. We've had no problems with COVID positive cases among our athletes. But again, we are experiencing low participation among our students, which in talking to other school districts, that's common for the other school districts as well. The local positivity rate, I did update this based on the data from yesterday, the 26th. Currently, Westmont is at 3.73 for their 7-day rolling positivity. Downers Grove is 4.44, Clarendon Hills 3.40, Hinsdale 6.64, and our average for our local community is 4.55. So ticking up a little bit, but it's not alarming. The school metrics from the Page County Health Department. Last week, new cases per 100,000 crested over 200. We're back below 200 at this time at 174. And then that still, though, puts us in the substantial. And then the nice thing as well is the new cases among people 20 years of age and younger has decreased. And so that's good to see that. For a while there, that was on an uptick. And then you see the CDC transmission levels that we've been focused on in determining if it was safe to be in person. And again, throughout the second semester, the 2 pieces of data we look at is the new cases per 100,000. We want that to be below 200 and the positivity rate to be under 10%. And we're hitting both those benchmarks. And again, just summarizing, the positivity rate in DuPage County is greater than 5%. Locally, though, we're below that. And then again, we're the number of persons that should actually be decreasing as of this week. It's decreasing the number of new cases. And then this week, the 26th, we resumed full days of instruction. Again, I mentioned this in the board update. The DuPage County School District, we are working on vaccination clinics for students. We have a date of May 20th. We're partnering with Hinsdale 86. And so we will have a vaccination clinic for any of our students 16 years and older. They'll be able to get vaccinated on the 20th. We're still waiting from the provider. It's OSCO that's providing the vaccine. So we're waiting on them for the final details. Students will require parent permission, but the parent does not have to attend the clinic with their child. They just have to sign off to give permission. And again, we're kind of working on those final details. But and we are anticipating that some students will need transportation to get there. And so we'll work through all those logistics so that any of our students who want to receive the vaccine will be able to receive the vaccine. Quick update on summer school. The dates of summer school will be June 14th through July 1st, and it'll be Monday through Thursdays, 8:30 to 11. And the one difference this year, because of the concern of learning loss, this will be invitation only, and the schools have identified students that they want to participate in that, and so those communications to parents will be happening next week to let those parents know. We'll still in August have a step up to high school and a step up to junior high, but again the focus is going to be on at the high school level the credit recovery, and then also those key standards that the students need to be successful, and then at the K-8 level as well, focusing on those key areas. And so that information will be going out next week. I also included a little bit of information. We've been having some questions. I know the board asked for the CARES Act or the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Act funding. There's 3 rounds of funding that, and these are federal government dollars that have been allocated to school districts. The first round for our school district, we received $132,328. The second round, we've been allocated $524,676, and then the third round of funding, our district will receive $1,177,777. We've already have our ESSER 1 round has been approved by the State Board of Ed. And I've got detailed information on how we're allocating those funds. We're in the process of putting together the budget for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. Definitely ESSER 2, we'll be presenting that budget to the board at our May 18th board meeting. I'm hoping that we can also present the ESSER 3. ESSER 2, the application, you have to get it again approved by, it's a grant application approved by the State Board of Ed. That is available right now, and we're completing that grant application. ESSER 3 grant applications won't be available until July 1, but we still want to have in mind how we want to allocate those funds. Plus, ESSER 3, you have to share publicly with your community how you intend to spend those dollars. And so, again, we'll be hopefully bringing that to the board at the May 18th board meeting, how we're allocating those funds. But in terms of that first round of funding, this is how we've been spending those funds. Instruction is $15,923. And Nadine was talking about some of the subscriptions. And so that's how we're paying for Zoom, technology tools, Edpuzzle, Lexia, Seesaw, Screencastify. So some of the tools we need in order to provide remote learning. Technology, we have students that did not have access to the internet, Wi-Fi. And so we purchased mobile hotspots for those families, and then also some of our staff needed devices, and so 20 laptops for staff, and that was $16,650. We felt it was important for each of the schools to have a nurse present, and so some of the funds were allocated for health services, and we went with a third-party agency, and so $33,077 for the nurse that's been at Miller. Tech support, over the summer we had a part-time technician that was helping us get the student devices ready for the upcoming year. He was also an integral part in us doing our virtual graduations for the junior high and high school. It was through Ben Pageant that we were able to do that. And then also, if you remember, during the summer when we were Zooming our board meetings from South School, Ben played an integral role in allowing us to be able to do that. Tech parts, as you can imagine, the student devices, a lot of repairs. And so that's the tech parts, about $2,000. And of course, there's been a focus on the PPE and cleaning, and so gloves, face masks, sanitizer, cleaning products. We got our custodians the electrostatic backpacks so that within 10 minutes they can completely sanitize the classroom. That was $59,210. And what's unique about this first round of funding that doesn't apply to the next two rounds, a certain percentage that we have a private school in our district, similar to title funds, a certain percentage of our title funds are available to Holy Trinity. A certain percentage of the ESSER funds we also had to make available to Holy Trinity. And so that was $1,868. And they use that for laptops at Holy Trinity. And so that's kind of how we allocated those funds. Again, at our next board meeting, we'll be sharing with you how we anticipate using the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds and those, is it both 2 and 3 with 2 years or just ESSER 3?
No, I think 2 years. I think 2 years for both.
For both of those, we have 2 years that we can spend the funds over. So you don't have to necessarily do it all next school year. Although kind of looking at our budget, it seems like a lot of it will be spent in the next year.
So 21, 22, 22, 23, or?
No, to 23.
To 23.
Through 23.
Okay.
22, 23.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And some of, like our summer school, we budget for summer school, but this summer school, we'll have additional teachers, additional materials, and so, some of what we're doing at summer school, the learning loss that's coming out of the ESSER funds and helping us fund those programs as well.
Kevin, would you say also that the cost of moving to full days is very much so covered by the ESSER funds?
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're really, and we can, now that we're still tweaking it, so I'd be more comfortable putting a dollar amount on it on May 18th, because even like today, I got a call from John Jonak, the junior high principal, and talking about he thought he could use additional lunch supervision during this time. And so we're adding pieces like that. So a lot of the cost is more the supervision pieces. You know, Manning has lunch in the gym and in their cafeteria, so you have to have additional lunch support. With the additional students, you can imagine the arrival, we're doing temperature checks and collecting the self-certification, dismissal. You're trying to keep kids socially distanced, you know, and as cars pull up. So it takes more people to do those things, so.
Can you use those funds for
Yes.
stipends? Okay,
Yes.
great, thank you.
Yes, you can. And I think,
So Kevin, that was gonna be my question about, all of the different buckets of ESSER funds. I imagine that it's pretty prescriptive what you can and cannot spend those funds for. Is that correct? Can you just talk to us a little bit more about, and maybe you don't have all of the, you know,
Right, and
requirements
Tim-
down,
I
but,
didn't bring that
right,
document.
but it is intended for learning loss. That's what the second and third round, the first round was more to kind of get schools open this year and to the PPE and then if schools needed to provide technology to students and those types of things. The second and third, the focus is more learning loss. And so you can use it for, you know, staff development again, for staff. You can, if there are interventions that are out there that would assist your students in ELA and math, you know, it allows you to purchase those curriculum items. You can do some, and we're going to do a little bit of this when we explain it to the board. You can hire some additional staff. You know, so if you wanted to go with a smaller class size or an interventionist, with the caveat that again, this is one time.
right.
And so, you know, if those resources you're going to be riffing,
Yep.
unless you find a way, you know, to absorb that FTE. And so we're being very upfront with any of those things that we're considering. Like, for instance, typically we don't carry 4 nurses in the district, but again, we don't know for sure yet. I was sharing with Jess Rodonio, we're supposed to be getting information from the State Board of Ed by the end of April about some of the things that districts will need to be doing next fall for school. Well, here we are the last week and we haven't heard anything, so I'm not anticipating we'll get it by Friday. So we don't know, you know, what social distancing will look like. We don't know if some of the, you know, temperature checks, some of those things will still be in place. And so we're anticipating having a 4th nurse, just because of the unknowns. Well, again, the 4th nurse isn't necessarily something we need ongoingly, but to kind of get us through next year, you know, it's something that we could see doing. So it is somewhat prescriptive, but again, if the district basically has to be able to explain, you know, how this expenditure is going to allow for, again, the learning loss and having our schools open in the fall.
Right, that makes sense. And have they given you, it sounds like you have a bit of a layout for when the applications for phase 2 and phase 3 are. Do they, when do you get the money, actually? Once, you know, if the applications, is it pretty much like we can count on this money flowing in over the next 6 months? Or is it like over a 2-year period, these funds will come flowing into the district?
These grants work just like our Title I, our IDEA. They're on a reimbursement basis. So each quarter, I have to complete an expenditure report that I submit to the Illinois State Board of Education. And then based on that, just a week or so, a couple weeks later, then we receive those funds wired into our account for that particular quarter. We could do reimbursement requests more frequently. So let's say we did some really large project, we could do that earlier than quarterly if we needed an inflow of money, or we can also report encumbered funds. I don't typically do that. I wait till I actually spend it, but so that's how we'll get that. The ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 can be spent in the same way that our Title I funds and our IDEA funds can be spent. There's also provisions in there for building projects as well. So, and that things that improve the classroom environment. So HVAC is one of the things that we might want to consider. And so at least some funding toward that. And ESSER 2 or ESSER 3, there is out of that $1.1 million, somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 that we have to spend to address learning loss. There's a prescribed amount. I don't have it memorized. And so again, things like, you know, summer school, tutoring of students, some of the things that, you know, we're doing. And so Nadine has been working very hard on putting together a comprehensive plan. Kevin, Nadine, Linda, and I, you know, thought early on, we need to make sure that we are utilizing our Title I, our IDEA, and then the CARES, so ESSER 1, 2, and 3, in a way that we have a comprehensive plan for spending. And so we've been looking at the types of things and trying to figure out, okay, what makes sense to come out of this grant, what makes sense to come out of this bucket of money, et cetera.
Sure.
So there's a lot of time and effort that has been put into that. There will be a continued time and effort to manage all of it, because it is, you know, a $1.1 million, most of our grants are in the, you know, our ideas, you know, a little over 300, maybe 350, but that's easy because it's on tuition. Our Title I grant is $199,000 this year. We got an extra $132,000 for ESSER, $500,000 and $1.1 million. Okay, lots of work, and if you're spending it $100 at a time, that's an inordinate amount of work. So we're going to be looking at some, you know, bigger chunks that will do it. But those spreadsheets are about this wide and about that long. So,
And, yeah. So,
okay, so
okay,
hopefully,
that's helpful. Thank you.
Anybody have other questions on that? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Real quick, I'm sorry, super fast. Laura asked my one question, which was any limitations. Is this is this kind of the extent of what we can expect unless any other further legislation is passed? So like, is this from both of the first stimulus, second stimulus, this is total, and this is what we can expect?
Right, unless there's new legislation.
Unless there's new legislation.
Right.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin on the school year update? Okay. Kevin, I think you have a strategic plan update to share with us.
Right, just very briefly. We had a tentatively scheduled a meeting in March to do a board workshop, and when it came time, it wasn't working for everybody's schedule. So now we've seated our new board, so I will be sending out, I usually do a doodle poll using your district email to find a date that'll work. I'm hoping in this next month in May that we get the board and admin team together. The admin team, we've developed a draft of a portrait of a graduate and then some work towards that strategic plan. So now we want to get, there's two paths we can go. So we want to get feedback from the board on which direction you'd like to see happen, and then that'll allow us to tighten it up and then get some input from stakeholders, with the timeline being July, we have our strategic plan in place.
Any questions? All right, the next item on the agenda is elementary future planning.
And at the last board meeting, the board approved us remaining in the current structure for Miller and Manning for one more year. And part of that is the work that Tim and Lindsay were doing, that they were doing and trying to get feedback. There were ideas that were coming up, you know, as diverse as building a new K-5 building to flip-flopping the junior high and Manning. And, you know, some of those ideas need to be vetted and to be looked into and get more feedback. And so, but at the same time, we got to start planning for next year. And so that's why this is just for next year. We want that long-term solution. So we put together a timeline in our process. Beginning tomorrow, we'll have a very brief application. It's more like, you know, asking people why they want to be a part of the task force, you know, what their interest is. And then we'll finalize that group. The task force will do their work over the summer, looking at those, vetting those options, looking at those options. And then September and November, you know, communication, town hall meetings, surveys, getting feedback, with ultimately in November bringing a recommendation to the board for a long-term solution. And tentatively, we're kind of looking at, we'd have 5 of our administrators who would be involved in it, members of our finance committee, school board members. We'd like to get staff members, a cross-section from different grade levels, our parent organization representatives, and get some of our community residents involved as well. Steve Cashman is our architect, and so some of those questions we're going to need his input on, you know, in terms of, you know, exactly what is the cost of a K-5 building, you know, and so, and how realistic is that for the district to pursue that. And so we want to, you know, answer all those, investigate all those different options, and then bring to the board then a solid recommendation from that committee, that task force, on how to move forward. And we do, we'll meet via Zoom. We do have tentative dates, you know, settling in on either, again, not both June 8th or 9th, but one of those dates. But you can see the breakdown, and in between, there would be, you know, information back to the board at meetings on updates on the progress so far and input that we've been receiving.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why the limit to 3 to 5 members for parent organizations and community residents? It just seems kind of a small group.
Sure. And, you know, we're trying to keep, we don't want it to be too large, and we want people definitely who make a commitment to be there for all the meetings. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I mean, if we have, you know, other individuals who really feel strongly that they want to be a part of it, I mean, I don't see us turning somebody away.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll still be opportunities for the community to engage in conversation about it.
Right.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And the communication about the task force, is that going out by you or Tim and Lindsay? And
It'll go out by me.
okay.
I'll probably do a parent link and then also have a link on the website as well.
In terms of people who are maybe not connected to the district email, like I don't have a student in the district, how are we going to make sure we get a couple of people who?
I usually work through the chamber.
Okay.
But that may not be, but I can work through the village as well.
Okay.
They work very nicely with us, and we can probably get some communication out through their e-alerts as well.
Unlike the library board and the fire boards would be really great.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I have a question with that input. So the task force is formed, but I see, and I like it with having the town halls and things like that. The first time that's going to happen towards the fall.
Right. So the task force will do their work and gather some data, and then put together a report that will be shared at various town hall meetings to get additional input. And then all that will go into ultimately a recommendation for the board.
We don't have to, like you said, build this huge group, because we're still planning to get a lot of input from the community.
Right.
If I understand it correctly, the task force's, that's hard to say. The task force's job over the summer is to figure out what's even possible.
Right, and
And
start to
what's
vet those
impossible
ideas.
before
Right.
we even start sharing anything.
Right.
Because we don't want to start going down a path that sounds amazing.
Right.
To find out that it's impossible.
Right.
That would be real heartbreaking, so, yes.
And we're going to make sure that there is a diverse group, because I
Mhm.
know there's a lot of families out there with concerns of the way we are structured at the moment.
Sure.
So we're going to make sure it's diverse.
Yes.
Right?
Yep, definitely.
And can we also request, if the rest of the board agrees, that as the task force meets between, June and August, and as the community communication is happening, can we have regular updates
Yes.
to the board? I think that's important for us, but it's also important because these are public meetings, so the community can hear as this process is unfolding.
Yes, we will.
What's happening. That'd be great. Any other
Yep.
questions or comments? Right, capital project reporting?
All right, good evening. I just wanted to update the board on the things that we have going on this summer. When we get our new facilities and finance committee seated, then we'll go into a little bit more detail about projects and look at some things for the future. But right now, and it has been our intention all along not to be bringing new items for recommendation, because we have a lot of things that we've been working on that have been pre-approved out of this budget that will carry over into next year's budget as well. So the things that have already been approved and are in progress, the 10-year life safety plumbing projects at Manning Miller, the junior high, and the high school. We did abatement at Manning over spring break, and then these projects are slated to begin in June. If you'll recall, Joe and I wrote for and received a school maintenance grant. It's a matching grant in the amount of $50,000. So if we spend $100,000, we receive $50,000. And then you guys approved those bids at the last board meeting, I think it was. And so any remaining costs will come out of the life safety, because these are approved on our life safety plan, and we have on our survey, and we have life safety funds remaining. So we'll utilize those first. Then we're also in June going to be working on the building automation system replacement at the high school. And again, the board just recently approved that project, and that is being funded with working cash bond funds. And then projects that won't start until fiscal year 22, the board approved the budget for the replacement of the marquis sign at Westmont Junior High. Joe Smith has been working for about a year to get that in place, and it is on the May agenda for the village, so hopefully that will get approved, and then we can get that sign ordered. That'll probably come to you to approve before we order it and get that replaced. And that's coming out of the junior high budget. If for some reason we can't get that completed by June, that will roll over into next year's budget. And then the board approved the budget for the purchase of a district activity bus from the transportation fund for this school year. The chassis are not being built right now due to COVID. So we're looking at November 2021 at the earliest. Our bus really needs to be replaced. So I am working with another firm that we might be able to find a bus that's already but maybe out of state. So I'm gonna continue to work on that to see if we can find that. Otherwise, we're gonna roll, that will be unspent money this year, about $55,000 or $60,000 that needs to be incorporated into next year's budget for that purchase. And then there's additional projects that will be coming to the board for approval. So we had some work that we were doing on the roof at the high school, and our custodial maintenance staff noticed that the EPDM roof membrane appeared to be lifting on the fine arts section of the building, as well as over the driver's ed section. And we had the insurance company come out to take a look at it, and it's a result of wind damage. So there is a chart, a picture in your board book of the sections of the roof. So the one section will be replaced and covered by insurance, and we have a $2,500 deductible. The other section of roof, they said that did not have as much damage, so they would just repair a certain section. If you look in your board doc, you can see it's that pink section. We are gonna go out to bid and get the cost for full replacement as well as repair, and then we can make the decision at that time whether it makes sense to do the repair or do the full replacement. These are things that have needed to be done for quite some time. So again, we'll meet with the finance committee and facilities and look at those bids when they come in. But later tonight, I'm going to ask you to approve the contract with Steve Cashman so that he can begin getting the bid specs out. Because we don't want to delay right now. That section of roof is being held in place by either sandbags or salt bags or something that are dotting the roof of the high school, so it doesn't blow up and we get like water damage and all kinds of fun things to deal with. So
if I'm looking at this correctly, it's this larger pink section that is covered by insurance.
yes,
And
then
it's the smaller section that
the
is
smaller
not.
section will be covered, but it's, do we want to do, you know, the two sections are mirror images. Do we want to do two large or one large and then a small section? And so based on the age of the roof, it probably makes sense to do
the whole
thing.
both of these sections
Right,
need
but
to
we have to bid it separately so that the insurance company knows what the
is on the
delta
covered
is
section
and
and
what
what's
the
not.
district would have to cover.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for clarifying that.
So, yeah, that's why we're doing it that way. And I've been in conversation with the insurance company about how we do that bid so that we can very clearly delineate what would be the district additional cost.
Okay.
And then the HVAC system replacement at the junior high school is the focus for summer of 2022. I've asked Steve Cashman to put together a contract for that, and we hopefully will have that at the next board meeting for the district to approve. Again, this is something that, you know, and again, based on what type of system it is, we have estimates that Steve has put together previously anywhere from $2 to $4 million. And it really is dependent upon the type of system that we utilize. Obviously, as we've, you know, this has been on our project list for a number of years. The further out we go, technology improves, systems improve. So hopefully we can work closer to the $2 million rather than the $4 million range. But when we present our ESSER 3 plan for the board, we're looking at budgeting $600,000 from the grant. We've been building up funds in our O&M fund, and we have about $2 million there that we should be able to use for this. So depending upon what we do, we've got, again, some wiggle room if we decide to go closer to the $4 million project. Then we're going to have to look at issuing working cash bonds. If we're closer to the $2 million project, then we have $600,000 we can use from the ESSER 3, and then that gives us $600,000 left in the O&M fund that we can put towards some of the other projects that we have. But again, we'll be coming back to the board for approvals on all of this and how we allocate the funds, having additional meetings, again, with finance and facilities to review this in greater detail. And then I don't know if any of you have been looking at like the parking lot at South by the alley. There's across by the playground. I don't know what happened. I think they were doing some tree work or whatever, but the whole edge of the parking lot is just lifting up and crumbling. And then we've got parking lot issues, the crumbling issues at Miller, and so we need to begin looking at those parking lot replacements as well and figuring out how we're going to fund those. So
the parking lot issue at the schools, would you just be replacing the current blacktop, or would you be expanding?
So, no, I don't think we would be expanding, and so some of the issues that we run into are storm water management detention. And so some of those issues have to be addressed. So it's a very lengthy process with the village. And So they're, again, looking at, permeable surfaces, things like that. So we have to, it's a very involved process. We may or may not be able to put asphalt down, maybe pavers, permeable pavers, those type of things. So those are all things that we would be working with the village on what we can and can't do. It's highly unlikely that they would allow us to expand those lots because of stormwater management issues.
Because you're right, I've seen where it's kind of heaved up towards the alleys.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think that they were doing some tree trimming, somebody, and that, kind of with the, really after that really cold weather in February and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden one day I'm like, oh, what is going on with that parking lot? So.
Right.
Okay, does anybody have other questions?
The roof at the high school, the issue, how long has that been going on?
We just noticed it a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks like it was actually like floating.
Oh, boy.
Like coming up, so it's part of the membrane is not adhering.
Right.
Also, a question on the roof at the high school. This is not the section that we had been planning on replacing, or is there still, because this is kind of that front section, right? And then there's still other sections of the roof that need to be replaced beyond this, or no?
There are probably others. I did not review the plan. I know this is areas that have been on, that are on that capital plan. So this is definitely one of the areas that's been on there to address.
Cool, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the presentation of monthly financial statements has been moved to the May meeting. So we'll move on to action items, and we have one action item tonight. The first two are also being moved to a meeting coming up. So the action item that we will be on the agenda for tonight is approval of the contract with Cashman Stoller for Westmont High School roof replacement. Any further questions about this before we entertain a motion? No? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract with Cashman Stoller for the Westmont High School roof replacement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. And the next item on the agenda, Kevin, is your superintendent's report.
Just a couple items. First, to echo Kevin Weck from earlier this evening, but congratulations to our high school scholastic bowl team that went undefeated this past weekend, and they were the small school and small school national champions. So that's exciting. And then the ranking of the high school being in the top 15. Again, that's excellent. So congratulations. I just wanted to inform the board that normally our May 18th board meeting, we would do student recognition, but because of the COVID protocols, we're not doing it formally at the board level, but buildings will be doing, we'll be recognizing students. And then also, so far, I mean, we're 2 days into it, but there's been some little hiccups, but things have been going pretty smoothly. We're making adjustments as we go along with our full day. But at our May 18th board meeting, I'll share with the board in more detail how these weeks have been going and the adjustments we have made. So, but so far it's been going well. That's my report.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any board reports tonight?
Hi. Manning has a PTO meeting on Monday, and it is the meeting to vote in the new board. So if anybody would like to turn in for that, there will be a Zoom. The agenda should be posted by Monday morning with the Zoom link.
Awesome. Any other board reports? I just wanted to say quickly, welcome to the new board members. It's great to have everyone here at the table, and I look forward to working with all of you on behalf of the community. I also want to recognize that the election results were certified today, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that for the 2-year seat, there was a really split vote in our community, and Ms. Hoover is sitting at the table with us. But I want to just speak to the community and say that we really hope that this board can bring everybody together and move forward in a way that is a very unified approach to helping continue to move our district in the right direction. With that said, we still do have an open position on the board, so applications are still being accepted until Friday at 5 p.m.
Yes.
So feel free to send me your application. And then I also just wanted to say really quickly, just thank you to all of the administrators and the families and the students and the teachers who have all gotten us back into full day learning. And it's been a total community effort to get that done. I know there's been a lot of effort put in across the board, and it has not been easy, but I think so far so good, and it seems like it's been a really great transition, and just thank you to everyone for that. If there's no other board reports, I'll just open it to any public comments. Okay, there's no public comments. Future meetings and events. There is an all-day district SIP day on May 5th. Westmont High School Spring Art Exhibition and Concert will be May 5th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. There's also a rain date, which is May 12th. And the next CUSD 201 board meeting will be May 18th at 6 p.m. at Westmont Village Hall. And with that, it's time for us to enter closed session. So the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing personnel issues and collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Coyle?
Yes.
Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Steckity?
Yes.
Ms. Redonio?
Yes.
Ms. Hoover?
Yes.
Mr. Marin?
Yes.
There will be no vote after close.
There will be no vote after close, and so we'll come back to adjourn the meeting then, right? So don't use my data.
Yes.
All right, we're going to be entering closed session.